tax is money raised by governments from individuals and companies that's used to fund government expenditures. In Australia, whilst the Commonwealth Government collects a majority of tax revenue through taxes such as the individual income tax and company tax, state and local governments also collect taxes, such as payroll and land tax. The amount of tax individual taxpayers will be required to pay will depend on various factors, including the taxpayer's level of income, whether the taxpayer is considered a resident of Australia for tax purposes, and whether the taxpayer has a tax file number. When calculating their taxable income, individual taxpayers and companies can offset any expenses they incurred during the year against their assessable income by claiming a tax deduction, provided the expenses were incurred by the taxpayer to produce assessable income. As the pie charts displayed show, the three taxes that were budgeted to raise the largest amount of revenue in Australia during the 2019-2020 year were the individual income tax, company and resource rent tax, and sales tax. As can be seen from the pie charts currently displayed, the three budgeted largest government expenditures in Australia during the 2019-2020 year were expenditure on social security such as unemployment benefits, other purposes, and health. Tax is needed for a number of reasons. Tax is needed to fund public expenditures made by governments, to facilitate income redistribution, and to correct market failures. The taxes Australians pay allow all Australians to have access to many quality free public services, which we all use on a daily basis, and which play a significant role in allowing Australians to enjoy the high quality of life and high standard of living many of us have become accustomed to. Tax revenues, amongst many other services, help to fund Australia's free health services, such as treatments at hospitals and visits to GPs, public education including primary, secondary and tertiary, public roads, railways and public transport. The taxes paid by Australians also help to fund Australia's national defence, police force and courts, all of which help to protect Australians by ensuring that an orderly and just society can be maintained. Tax is also needed to achieve a more equitable society. The largest use of tax revenue in Australia currently is expenditure on welfare payments, such as the old age pension, unemployment benefits, and disability benefits. The tax system in Australia helps to achieve a greater level of equity in Australia by facilitating the redistribution of income. The Australian tax system helps to redistribute income and wealth by taxing wealthy Australians at a higher rate of tax through the progressive income tax, and using the tax revenue raised to fund the welfare benefits many less well-off Australians use to pay for their daily needs. The redistribution of income in Australia is demonstrated in the charts shown. As can be seen, wealthy Australians pay the majority of tax and receive little or no benefits, whilst poorer Australians receive the majority of welfare benefits and pay little or no tax.
If Australians didn't pay tax, governments in Australia couldn't function and would no longer have the ability to fund all the public services the various governments in Australia currently provide to Australians. Australians would no longer have access to free health care, free primary and secondary education, and help with tertiary tuition. As a result, Australians would be required to pay for any treatment they received at hospitals, would have to pay every time they visited a GP, and parents would have to pay for their children's education. Without tax revenue, local governments would no longer be able to build local leisure centres, libraries, parks, and sporting facilities, resulting in a significant reduction in the quality of life and lifestyle many Australians enjoy. Think about the street lights or traffic lights, traffic signs, printed lines on the road, or even public transport or your local park. Can you imagine what life would be like if the government wasn't able to fund and provide these things? Crucially, without tax revenue, Australia's National Defence Force, Police Force and courts would no longer be funded. Without these vital public institutions, Australians would no longer be able to go about their day-to-day life with a large degree of safety. Australian society would become much less ordered and just. Finally, without a tax system in Australia, no redistribution of income would occur. This would mean less well-off Australians, such as the disabled and unemployed, would have no access to government support. Without taxes, Australians would be required to fund their own retirement. To wrap things up, taxation is monies individuals and companies pay to governments and which is needed to pay for public expenditure by the government, including expenditure on public health, public education, and welfare.